Hey guys, this is Red Bull Fact 1. Today I'm just going to go over a tournament I fished recently. I had a 5th place finish. I didn't have a whole ton of weight, but it was a tough lake to fish, and we had some tough conditions, and so I just wanted to go over how I caught the fish that I did catch. Okay, so the fish in this lake were in spawning mode. They were all spawning. None of them were pre-spawn. Both spotted bass and largemouth bass were all spawning. However, because of flooding that we had recently, the water had been muddied up. This lake is known for crystal clear water, and it had been stained and muddied up, so pretty adverse water conditions. So we could not sight fish for those spawning bass. The largemouth, it seemed they were spawning in anywhere from 6 inches to 2 foot of water, very shallow. And then we're catching some of these spawning spotted bass in more like 6 to 10 foot range. Backs of creeks, pretty typical spawning areas. But I'm just going to go over some of the lures I used to catch them. Alright, so in the morning we started off with a Strike King Shad. It's a crankbait made by Strike King. It's jointed. It only runs about 2 feet on fluorocarbon. I've fished it on 12-pound mono, and we were just fishing it through the thickest stuff. There's a lot of stumps, a lot of trees, and we were just picking off the males. We only caught 1 female the entire day. Maybe if we had been able to sight fish for them, we could have caught the females, but we were able to pick off a lot of those males that were guarding the nests. So early in the morning, we were catching a lot of fish on this. Caught a lot of short fish though, but we ended up catching about a couple keepers on this in the morning. And the bite on it lasted a good hour, 2 hours. Fishing it on a 6'6" cranking rod, Rick Clun cranking rod. This is kind of an old one. Medium action. And yeah. So that was in the morning. Fished the crankbait about an hour longer than the bite lasted, just to make sure we couldn't pick off a few more, because it had been working really well for us for a good long time. So after the crankbait bite died, tried to slow it down, switch to something a little slower, like this jig. We were fishing a 1/4 ounce football jig, and we were also fishing a 1/2 ounce flipping jig. Both of them were peanut butter jelly color. This one had a little more purple in it, but both of them were peanut butter jelly color. And they both had Strike King Rage Craw trailers on them. Got the tails dipped in Spike It chartreuse garlic dye. And with that stained water, it just made it a little bit easier for the fish to see it. And we got onto a little bit of a pattern. The fish were holding onto wood. You could go into any of these little creeks where they were spawning, and they were spawning in wherever the wood was. Alright, so basically we were just making short little casts, roll casts, or underhand pitches. There's a lot of wood under the overhangs, so we need to be able to skip these jigs, because most of the time you'd have a 6-inch window or less to get under those overhangs and back into where they were spawning. So I really like this rod for skipping. It's a 610 Shimano Clarence worm and jig rod. It's got a lot of flex, but it's got a fast tip. Okay, so we're really able to get some whip action to skip those baits. This reel is really good for skipping too. It's the new Abu Garcia Aura, brand new, the 2014 model. I was fishing it in a 7:1 gear ratio. Just helped me pick up my slack. A lot of them, especially when they're spawning, they bite it quickly because they're just trying to defend their nest. They bite it quickly. They're not actively feeding. So you really got to reel up your slack and set the hook on them fast. But yeah, so those were our 2 key baits. We also caught a few on a shaky head. But like I said, I feel like we could have done better if we were able to sight fish for some of those bigger largemouth. The team that won it had 22 pounds, which is unheard of for this lake. I know they had to have been sight fishing. There's no other way. They had to have been catching pregnant females. I don't know I mean, they might not have been sight fishing, they might have just been taking their time. And I mean, you could find a bed, you could cast into an area and you know it was a bed because you can make consecutive casts to it and they bite it every time, same spot, so you know it's a bed. So I'm thinking either they found clear water that we couldn't find, or they just sat there and tediously kept fishing for that same female. But this was our first time fishing lake. We didn't really know much about it, so we were just trying to cover water. We ended up catching 20 fish, but only 3 kept. But we had a lot of people zeroed out, a lot of small weights. We ended up with 5 pounds for 3 fish. A little on the small side, but like I said, we were catching lots of fish, just a lot of them were 11 3/4, 11 1/2, 10 inches, just not making the cut. So that's tournament recap. Got 5th place. Wish it could have gone better, but again, I'm still happy with how we finished 5th place. So stay tuned for more videos. Thanks.